holy. You are worthy of our praise. You are healer, God. But we bless your name tonight, God. You are all we need. That's right, that's right. Oh, you satisfy. You alone can satisfy. And I believe that you're my healer. And I believe you are all I need. You're all we need. And I believe that you're my portion. And I believe you're more than enough for me. And Jesus, you're all I need.
My name is Pastor Priscilla, and I'm from the Northwest Campus. And it was at the age of 11 years old when my whole 6th grade life turned upside down. At the age of 11 years old, my God-fearing parents were left in a place of questioning where their miracle-working, healing Father was. It was in the 6th grade where my life was no longer normal, where one Sunday morning, as my father was preparing to bring the sermon to our church, we noticed a difference in the way that I looked, which led to a visit to the hospital instead of to church, where we found ourselves questioning God's faithfulness instead of singing of his praises. And 2 weeks later, I was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer, questioning if God was really watching out for me, his daughter. As the year went on, I felt like God abandoned me in the 6 months of chemotherapy as I lost every single hair that you once said you loved me enough to count. I questioned, are you really there? As my body weakened, I cried out, show me if you're really there. Then there was a day where you reminded me, miracles don't always happen in an instant. My miracle was in the way the Lord sustained me to take on months of chemotherapy and more months of radiation. And suddenly, I knew my miracle was in the process. The Lord showed me how he deposits strength into us when we're at our lowest valleys, and at my weakest, he was strong. He gave me purpose in my pain so that 12 years later, my disease did not defeat me. 12 years later, I can say that in every single day I live, in every breath that I take, I am living proof of the healing power of God. I am living proof of how Jesus is more than enough. And the enemy, he wanted to use my cancer to destroy my faith, but God was preparing me for my purpose.
Move the immovable, break the unbreakable. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. From the impossible, we'll see a miracle. God, we believe. God, we believe for it.
Praise the Lord. God bless you. My name is Abby, and Cindy and I are the Elgin campus pastors. On September 23rd, 2020, I was riding my motorcycle. Behind me was Pastor Victor, my associate pastor. And as I'm riding my motorcycle, a lady going about 35 to 40 miles an hour eats the stop sign and hits me on my left side. I fly 16 feet in the air, land on my clavicle, and hit my head. I have no recollection of the accident because my brain completely removed the accident. All I remember is waking up in the hospital and my foot was in intense pain. they mentioned to me that my foot got stuck in a pedal and it literally ripped the front of it off. I'm gonna show you a picture. The doctors called my wife aside and says, I don't know if we'll be able to save his foot, but if we are able to save his foot, I guarantee that he won't be able to walk the same anymore. He'll have to walk in a brace. Having to deal with the tension to communicate to her husband, my wife calls Pastor Ephraim and Pastora and says, I need to tell my husband that the accident has permanently handicapped him. I don't know what to do. What she didn't know was that God gave me a word. While I was in the hospital bed, God took me to Job chapter 10, verse 11. I want to read this because in the middle of that crisis that Job is there, God puts a verse that's directly for me. And he clothed me with skin. My foot needed skin and flesh. And he knit me together with bones and sinews. Other version says tendons. God gave me a word that while the doctor says I will permanently handicap, God said I will permanently restore you. Fast forward the story. The doctor puts me on the womb vac. It's this machine that takes out all the nasty stuff and begins to help heal you. And I go to the doctors 2 months later. He goes, wow, what would have taken 6 months, you healed in 2 months. And I quote, he says, you're a miracle healer. In my spirit, I say, I'm not, but I know the miracle healer. I know the God that heals. Fast forward the testimony. I'm still walking with a boot. I go to one of my appointments, and the doctor says, what I've told you all along, you're gonna have to walk with this boot for the rest of your life, but we wanna help you. So let's get into an MRI and try to see if there's anything that we can do medically to help your foot. The MRI results came back, and he says, I got good news or bad news. What do you want first? I said, Doc, just tell me the news, come on. And he says, well, here's the bad news. The bad news is that there's nothing that I'm going to be able to do with your foot. And he goes, but here's the good news. We did the MRI, and for some reason, all the tendons are there. Everything is intact. He goes, you're gonna recover fully. It's May 27th, 2022. I'm at the Suddenly Conference. Not only can I walk,